right, welcome back everybody for second hour. I'm your host Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed, and we do have joining us for second hour Mark Sargent. Mark, are you there, brother?
I am here. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, well, thanks for joining us for the panel. I don't know if you got to hear the first part of the show, but we were talking about the cosmology, and I had asked both Patricia and Carly and Kathy to just share a little bit about what they think and what they've learned with regard to the cosmology. And so we're going to ask you the same. What do you feel um, about the cosmology? What have you learned, and how do you view it now in the 3 years you've been studying and looking into this?
Okay, so do you want me to kind of reflect on what my idea was of cosmology before I started this thing, or just what it is now?
Or yeah, both.
Well,
What it was before and how it's evolved to where you think it is now.
okay, and I apologize to the ladies because I was unfortunately on another radio show just before this, and I literally just jumped off and into out of the frying pan and into the fire, as it were. So,
Hmm.
before I got into flat Earth, I was a huge space nut. Huge, just digested everything that NASA put out there, and everything that science fiction put out there, to where I could not get enough of any space series, whether it be Star Trek or Star Wars or Stargate or any of the cool movies, to where I was enamored with space. Why not? It's if you're into it, it's a beautiful concept. Yeah, it's really big and really scary and really deadly, but it was an interesting concept, and it gave the imagination a place to go. You really got to stretch things. It was brilliant for writers, people that wanted to write science fiction. Oh, I mean, great stuff that you could create with an open universe. Of course, you had to solve big problems like these vast, unimaginably huge distances. But it was cool. I loved it. And then when I got into flat Earth, I never had that feeling of claustrophobia that some people who write me tell me. It's like, look, you just turned this giant place into a one-room apartment. And I
Hmm.
said, yeah, I get that, and I'm sorry for that part. But at the same time, it's a very intimate, very cozy
Yes.
one. It's very manageable. Beforehand, people would talk about, I would think that some people question their significance in the universe, where if the Earth is just this tiny little grain of sand flying at incredible speeds through the galaxy, then what are you? You're nothing.
Mm.
You haven't been here that long to where, what was that Carl Sagan speech where he broke down the timeline, and he said, if the entire history of the universe was an hour or a day or something, that the entire human civilization was like just this tiny fraction of a minute that was the end of this clock. But for me it was different. I felt purpose. I felt this wonderful attraction to the creative process, which was, look, and you've probably heard me say this before, where I fell away from the church when I left the island and went to college and was broadened and had all these wonderful experiences, and at the same time I lost my spirituality when I was doing that. I mean, not all of it, but enough of it. And when I got into this, it was like someone had just shook me for an hour, by the shoulders, just rattled me. And then by the time I was done, I was like, okay, so this is where I am now. And but it made so much more sense. The cosmology and my cosmology might be different from them. Whereas I believe we are in a giant sports stadium, a planetarium, a terrarium, a domed enclosed structure that is meticulously built with extremely clever design schematics and wonderful care, and the automated systems are brilliant. And it's just so many cool things when you're looking at it from that standpoint. And I know I was lucky because I cut my teeth in my career in the game development sector, so I knew a lot about editing and how you could create worlds inside of software. And once I saw this, it's like, of course, the little things that make all the difference, how you can change the course of history with just these tiny little adjustments. And and then, then being humbled, it's like, okay, we are not the first group to be here, and we will not be the last. And another civilization had to make way for us, and we will have to, and I imagine pretty soon, have to make room for the next group that's coming in. No different than schools. Eventually you got to graduate. You're a senior, you gotta go, because we got another freshman class coming in. You had fun and you learned a whole bunch of stuff, but it's time to move on. And that's where I am now. I'm resigned to it, and I have lost, once I finally settled into my new cosmology, I slept better than I had in a long, long time. There you go.
Well, right on. Well, can you also talk about really quickly about your presentation and your involvement with the International Flat Earth Conference?
Right. The international conference, most of my presentation will be involving nudity and drinking on stage. A lot of profanity, stuff like that.
Yeah. So just a normal show is what you're saying.
Exactly. There's going to be nothing new. People are going to be like, oh, God, here goes the clothes. There we go. No.
Give them what they want.
No. Yeah, I hope that's not what they want. Because there's going to be a lot of cameras there. We've had, just the news recently. Howard Stern announced he's sending a team 2 days ago.
Oh my gosh!
I know German.
Is that true?
Oh, it's absolutely true. Yeah. He of course is not going to be there in person because he'd be freaking mobbed. Plus he's like 6'7", so he'd stick out like a sore thumb.
Stand out, right?
But yeah, he's going to be there. German television just confirmed today they're going to be there. Vice Media. I swear the camera teams are going to be fighting over outlets. Who's got the power strips, because they're going to be tripping over each other. But sorry, to be serious, the presentation I'm doing, and I've changed it like 5 or 6 times going into this, because initially I thought, I'll do something cool like a timeline, or I'll make it sort of funny, or I'll do a reflect on the different personalities, I'll do, and then I finally realized, as I was doing more and more interviews, I was going, you know what, this isn't about me. It's about the people. It's with a group this large, and it's not even as large as it should be. There's no way I'm going to meet everyone that's there. There's no way. I've been, with Patricia, we've been to several meetups where there's only 50, 60 people there, and at the end of the night, there's still people that are going, "Hey, bye, Mark." I never even met them, whoever these people were, because there's only so much time in the day. Even if you spent 5 minutes with every person there is literally not enough time in the day to do it. So I modified it, and it's just going to be a Q&A, and I still don't have a lot of time to do it. I'm going to squeeze in a little speech in the beginning, where I'm going to do a quick audio fun thing and a quick video fun thing, quick little history lesson, followed by a poem. I am going to read poetry.
Whoa.
And I know, right? And come sweet slumber and shroud me in thy purple cloak, stuff like that. And people are going, and then I am going to read a quick little poetry, and it's relevant, people will get it. And then I'm going to read a letter I just got from someone regarding that really kind of drove home for me what Flat Earth is right now. I'm hoping to cram all that into about 7 minutes. And then I'm just going to get in a chair and have people line up and have the MC grab a microphone and just start handing it to people. Much like what happened with you, Zen, down in Atlanta, where there was a line of people. And to make it more enticing, because some people, it's one thing to stand up in front of and ask questions when you only have 30 people in the room. But if you have hundreds and hundreds of people in the room, a little different. So I'm going to I've already signed them actually, and I'm going to give out anyone that asks a question, and I don't care what it is. You want to ask me my favorite ice cream, that's fine, you get a card. I've signed Illuminati cards from Illuminati the New World Order deck, and I'll be giving those to people that are in line. And if you are in line, and because there's no way, how many questions can I do in 45 minutes? Not that many.
Right.
If you're still in line, I will give you and you're still in line when the thing ends, then we'll just go down the line and hand cards to whoever's left, and then whoever's the last one gets the box. So that's what I'm gonna do.
Now, is the Vegas card more valuable now? Are you
Oh,
gonna
it
give that
is.
one
Yeah,
away?
yeah, yeah. Where are they going for on eBay now? 50-something bucks a crack?
Are they?
Really? Wow.
Yeah, which isn't bad if you can find them. And so I like to have fun with this stuff. So as soon as I realized what I was going to do, no, as soon as the Vegas thing happened actually, and we found out that the Vegas card was actually real, I went online and I bought the last of a personal stock from this guy in Europe. So the card is in English, but the small print is in German. And so I'm giving out, I think in the deck, and I bought 6 of them. I think I'm giving out 4 for the Q&A, whoever is in there. And I hope people ask good questions. But again, it's not about me, it's about them. This is, for a lot of people, it's going to be their chance to, hey, ask me a question. Great, fantastic. And
one of my favorite parts of the debate was the Q&A. There were great questions.
Yeah.
All ages. Even Genevieve, Laurel's daughter, asked one of the best questions, I thought. So.
That kind of started. I mean, conventions have been doing that for years, but you really don't get. I mean, I've seen them at again, I'm a dork. I've been to Comic-Con for vacation. Seriously, I got San Diego, a pennant, hat, and walk around Superman. And and literally you'll have a room of a panel of I don't know, thousands of people in this room, and the line, oh my god, the lines of people that because they're just dying, because they know it's look, you're not going to be able to talk to some of these people that are up there. You just won't have a chance. There's only so much time to have. So I'm hoping that we get some good questions, and I'm sad I only get 45 minutes, but that's all right. I don't mind. That's fine. I get to do 2 things. I get to do the Q&A thing that I'm doing, and then I get to co-host the video awards show with Patricia, the last event of the evening, and hopefully we will get to run long, because that thing's only an hour and we're giving out 30 awards. And you know how that goes. I mean, the Oscars.
Oh, that's going to take a while.
Yeah, well, because luckily people, when they go up and give speeches, a lot of people won't want to give speeches anyway. So if Carly wins an award, I don't know if she's going to come up there with a little crib sheet and say, "Oh, first of all, I'd like to thank, the director."
Hey, man. Yeah, I guess I've got to rip up my speech now.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that some people will be yeah, they'll just shake, wave and go thanks and leave, and not because they don't want to be up there. So
yeah, I'm just teasing.
We're not encouraging people to give speeches. Let's put it that way. There just isn't enough time, because I got a funny feeling. This is my prediction, that the hotel, what'll happen is we'll run 90 minutes, and then the hotel will be sitting there tapping their watch on the outside, going, "Look, dude, we got to shut this room down." So,
right.
Anyway.
Well, can you elaborate, both you and Patricia, and Carly? I'm not sure if the news crews have been following you as well, but can you talk about that? Because it seems like they have done a lot of filming already with both of you. Is that correct? And how is that going to be incorporated into, is the Flat Earth Conference going to be the last segment of, how are they doing that? Or do you have any idea?
Yeah. I've told them, and Patricia can chime in, of course.
Yes.
Are you there, Patricia?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, just wondering. That's right. I know you're being professional and you're not talking.
Yes.
This is the climax of what they've been filming for the last a while now, months and months, to where this is it. After this is that, and then they go straight to editing. And up until now, they've been doing, which is interesting. With many documentaries, they're actually doing this in chronological order. So they went to Patricia's twice. Is that true? Houston twice. Patricia.
Yes, twice exactly.
Twice. Yeah, the Seattle twice, Houston twice, Denver. I don't know if they got up to San Francisco to see Jaron. But they were shooting, so they were shooting some of the people that were going to be in it, and just doing their own backstories, collecting media, and then they go to the conference. They shoot everybody else that they can, and then they go to editing and wrap it up, and then either pitch it to some sort of production company or try to sell it at Sundance, or both.
Awesome. Well, they also followed you for the eclipse. Is that correct? So
Yeah,
that's part of it as well.
yeah. That was a kind of a
Wow.
last minute thing where, as you know, the eclipse, even though the moon is 2,000 miles wide, the total blackout zone was only 70 miles wide.
Right.
Little strange. How you can microscope shadows, I don't know. Science apparently has an explanation. Can't duplicate it down here, but I digress. They came up to Seattle, and then we drove down to Salem, Oregon, and we spent a couple days down there, and it was perfect, absolutely beautiful, perfect conditions. I mean, I heard other parts of the country were not so great, but in Salem, Oregon, go figure, it was gorgeous. Not a cloud in the sky. There were some forest fires to the east, but didn't affect us at all. And saw the whole thing. It was beautiful. We shot basically they just kept the camera running for like 2 days, which means that's about 10 minutes worth of footage. Mm-hmm. And it was great. And they're going to use that. They'll use the time that Patricia and I spent down at NASA when we were down there. That was great. And they'll also use they also spent time in LA, because it's an LA based team. They went to several meetups in Los Angeles. And geez, I completely forgot. They met me at the Pasadena meetup just recently. I came down there because the Pasadena meetup said, "Hey, if we fly you down and get your hotel, will you come?" It's like, okay. So I went. Yeah, I was like, all right, fly me down, give me drinks. I'm cool. And we did. And Pasadena meetup was outstanding. And the documentary team shot that whole thing, and they grabbed people out of the crowd and took them over to the park and shot them and made them sign the release forms, and not made them, it wasn't gunpoint.
Yeah.
And it was great because if you don't sign the release forms, you can't be in it.
Right.
And it was great. It turned out fantastic. So these guys are all out. I'm sorry, they're all in on this. If the rumor serves me correctly, they're going to send a 6-man team to Raleigh, and that's not shabby. I don't know how much
Awesome.
I don't know how much Vice Media is going to send. They're going to be there. There's a couple other documentary teams that are also going to be there, and these are just people we know of. The last minute people, which are coming in, between now and 2 weeks from now. If Jimmy Kimmel and Conan and those guys send a team, it's not going to shock me in the slightest at this point. Why would it? It's the most interesting, because right now the news is really, really boring. There's nothing going on. And that would be an interesting story for just about anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly with those guys being comedians, it would be a lot of material for them to ridicule and make fun of and all, So.
Well, think about it this way: a lot of people, just out of curiosity, are going to send groups down there because of what you were saying, because they think, okay, there's got to be some comedic value to this.
Right.
You're going to a flat Earth convention. Oh my God, what sort of characters you're gonna see down there? People with literal tinfoil, people dancing around with funky music and doing all who knows what they're going to be doing in the parking lot type stuff. They're going to basically look for whoever stands out the most, and if they don't interview well, then but they will talk to the conference people, because you really do want to talk. It's like, okay, who's speaking at this thing? So they absolutely are going to want. It's like, okay, who's influencing? And when they find out, I don't know what's going to scare them more. Would it scare them more if they found crazy looking people, or would it scare them more if they all of a sudden started talking to the presenters and wait, these people are just like normal. They look just like us. Wait, how can we detect them? You don't know. It's like, which is why the community has grown and grown and grown, because heck, we don't even know. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that 9 out of 10 people in the flat Earth community are hidden. You do not know who they are, because they know, but they're not going to come out. They're in the closet because they don't want to get ostracized by family and friends and coworkers. So, but I've run into it. I mean, I don't. It's been a while. Let me tell you a quick story. I know we're going to break here in a little bit. That thing that happened to me when I left Atlanta. Did I tell you that when I left Atlanta? I think I may have told Kathy. When I was coming through security, they ran my bag through a secondary screen, and I was wearing my I Am Mark Sargent shirt because I thought that'd be fun to wear in the airport. And this kid, he couldn't have been like more than 20 something. He's looking at my bag and he goes, "Is this your bag?" And I go, "Yeah." and I'm walking towards him. He's looking at my shirt, looking at me, looking at my shirt, looking at me, and he goes, "Are you Mark Sargent for real?" And I go, "Yeah, man. Why?" And he goes, I am not making this up, people. He looks at me, he winks, and he said, "Yo, man, that's my name too." And he gives me the bag without even checking it. And I'm just going, holy smokes. There's flat earthers everywhere. And nobody knows because we don't have any weird designators. You know, we don't wear pins and special stickers on our cars or anything. Mm-hmm. And the only reason he knew was I was wearing the shirt. And it was really, really cool. So at that point, really cool. That made my afternoon. And that wouldn't have happened hadn't I come down to visit you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was amazed you went and had lunch and you were talking and the waitress came over and she was a flat earther.
Yeah, the bartender.
But she didn't know you.
No, she didn't know me. She didn't even know there was an event happening literally 100 yards away in the hotel. So, and she wasn't even serving our table. She was just a bartender. And all of a sudden she comes over and she looks at us, she goes, "You guys flat earth?" And I go, "Yeah, why?" And she goes, "High five." And I go, "Holy smoke." I go, "You're flat earth?" She goes, "Yeah." And I asked her, I go, "Do you have any favorites?" She goes, "No, I haven't been in it that long." And I'm going, holy. So I gave her one of my press release flash drives with all, tons of information, because she was trying to convince the manager of the restaurant to be a flat earth, and he thought she was just some crazy female bartender. But yeah, that both those things happened in a very short amount of time, and which is why I call it the flat earth, the world's secret guilty pleasure. And you're thinking, what do you mean by that? I was going, look, the Spice Girls sold 80 million copies. 80 million in 2 albums. 80 million copies. I don't know anyone who owns those albums. The reason is because people are scared to tell people that they own a Spice Girls album. It's like, they just turn it on, put on their headphones, tell me what you want, what you really want. They don't tell anybody. That's what flat earth is to a lot of people. And so when we hit this, and now people think I'm being silly when I say critical mass, when it happens, you're going to have all these people all over the place going, "Yeah, I totally knew, dude." It's like, "You knew?" "Yeah, I knew." There'll be groups of people just looking at each other. It's like, how'd you know? Because they keep it a secret mostly out of, to keep their ego in check, to make sure that people don't, nobody wants to get hammered, for believing in something that sounds silly. So anyway, sorry. I
want to ask all three of you this, since you're very well-spoken and well-known in the community. We're going to go to Patricia first, then to Carly. What have you seen, and how many, the awakening, how large do you think it is? Because yes, there are all these people out there that are not, have not come out of the closet, have not stood up and said, "Yes, I'm a flat earther." They're totally incognito. They just mesh with the rest of the people. But in the meetups that you've done, in the groups that you are part of, Carly, how big do you think this awakening, Patricia?
I think, like Mark was saying, it's a lot bigger than we know. It's not just YouTube. Here we've got TFR with a lot of flat earth content providers on it, and some are not. And there are other places where you can find it as well. There's places like Twitch. I've never been on Twitch before, but they're hosting flat earth content. Other places that it can go. We don't really know what's going on. I don't anyway. Outside of America, we know big things are, because we can go on YouTube and we see flat earth content being produced in other countries. I can't speak any other language except English, so I do know there's Spanish. I do know there's Japanese. There's everything probably. Mark would know more about that. But it's a lot more than we know. And just like here in where we speak English, we have the people that are active participants, and then we have the people who are passive, meaning they just listen to things. They don't have a channel. They don't subscribe. We don't know their names. So there's a mix of both, no matter where you go, no matter what country it is. So whatever number you think it is, you could probably double it, maybe triple it. something like that, Mark?
Yeah. Statistically, think of it this way. And we got like a minute. Statistically, even if it's just 1% of the U.S. population, that's over 3 million. That's just in the U.S. And I think it's way higher than 1%. The stats that chart I sent you, Patricia, months ago, where they were saying, do you know? Did you always know? I mean, it was pushing 10, 11%. Which would be a huge amount of number, just the United States. I know that Flat Earth Indonesia is huge. The Russian version is huge. UK, obviously big. They've had media looking at this thing. Europe has a big section in this. You want to have some fun, go in and type in Flat Earth in English and convert it to any language you want, then paste that version into YouTube and take a look. Or paste it into Google. It's big. It's really, really big. It's big and it's secretive. It's not sinister though. It's this cool inside cool kids club that everyone's getting on board, and you should too.
All right, we'll be right back for final segment, and we'll open with Carly when we return. Be right back, everyone.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
All right, welcome back, everybody, for final segment. Carly, I want to pose the same question to you, especially since you are involved with so many of these different groups, Facebook groups, Flat and Happy, and others. What do you see with regard to the awakening and with critical mass and us approaching this Flat Earth conference? I can only imagine that after the conference, there's just going to be so much more energy and so many more, as far as these videos and these documentaries and these films, all of that is going to be out there too. It's going to just keep pushing more and more truth out to people and bringing more and more people to this revelation.
Yes, I definitely see absolute huge growth. And, I have a very humble channel, so I totally understand it when someone doesn't know who I am, and someone doesn't recognize my name. But just to put it into perspective, I'm involved in quite a lot of Facebook Flat Earth groups, and I run quite a lot, and we're talking tens of thousands of people that I interact with. Now, I don't always, when I'm following a comment thread and I'm moderating, I don't always comment. I kind of keep silent and I watch what other people are saying. I observe quite often, and people don't realize that, but I watch what a lot of people do and say. And not to make this sound like a negative thing, there are people left and right that say, they don't know who Mark Sargent is, or they don't know who Patricia Steer is, and some of the other voices in the community. And you know what? I think that's amazing, because that, to me, is showing that this community is getting so exponentially large that people can't keep track of each other. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much content, and there's so many voices out there now that there are just huge factions of people that don't even know each other. And I'm seeing that quite a lot here. It's very hard to keep track of. And on top of that, just from a Facebook standpoint, there are gigantic Flat Earth Facebook groups out there. I mean, there's one in Brazil that's, last I checked, and that was a while ago, is well over 50 or 60,000 members.
Wow.
There's one that Nathan Thompson runs that is over 70,000 members, and that's just two of them. And there are hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of Flat Earth Facebook groups. Now, granted, a lot of people are members, in multiple groups, but I mean, it's people don't realize how big it is on Facebook unless they're involved. And then you also have like the YouTube content channels where I see people all the time that they don't have anything to do with Facebook, and yet there's thousands, tens of thousands, of hundreds of thousands sometimes, I'm sure, once you get it all counted up, that are following content channels and have nothing to do with Facebook. So I would definitely say we're growing exponentially, and I can see that the Flat Earth Conference is going to be huge as far as our growth. I really see it growing in leaps and bounds after this. I don't see how it's not going to become more mainstream in a good way, and that this is kind of our goal. Like, some people are afraid of it, or they think we're commercializing it, or whatever their thoughts are, but isn't this the point, is that we are trying to expose this to everyone? They can make their decision, but we're trying to get the truth out. We're trying to help people wake up. So I see this Flat Earth Conference as that being the second most important thing. I think the first important thing is just all of us meeting each other.
Well, again, with all the films, the documentaries, and all that material that is coming out, all the books that we're bringing, it definitely, there's a lot of material going to be available to the public, which people can share, giving people books, giving people documentary, Robbie's Scientism Exposed, and so all of that, is just going to increase the growth. But let me ask all of you this as well. Why now do you think that this has to do with, as I believe, with the whole ancient alien, that the cosmology, the Darwinian, Copernican, all that is connected to that, and that is the next stage? Or why do you think all this is coming forth? And we'll go right back to you, Carly, then we'll go around Patricia, and then Mark, and then Kathy.
So are you asking, why do you think this is coming out
Coming
now?
to
Do
the
you think
forefront, yes.
Right.
I mean, the end of days,
Right.
what, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people I know, mention that they think that Flat Earth is a psyop, and that it's being leaked on purpose. And I mean, if you're talking about a psychological operation, if anything is a psychological operation and was being pressured and forced upon us, and in our education system, it's the globe Earth model, the heliocentric model. As far as it being allowed,
Right, I agree.
I mean, it's hard to put those thoughts into words. I mean, I know that there are the elite are in charge, and there's a lot of things that they control. Although I'd like to think of it more as in, if anyone was going to allow this to leak, and if anyone was planning this as far as timing, that I would be more apt to say that it was the creator, the one who intelligently designed this. I mean, I think that this was his plan all along. I think the globe Earth model was part of the great or grand deception. And I do think we're kind of dwindling down to where it's going to be a tipping point. And I think that that's why many of us feel like this is what we've been preparing for, for a bigger portion of our life. I look back on so many things that have happened to me that, especially on the spiritual side, that I'm thinking to myself, these things have happened to me specifically to prepare me for this truth coming out and sharing it with others as well. Just things that have happened in my life, So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think this is also another reason why so many are impassioned about this as topic. Patricia?
I think sometimes that the flat earth revelation, the awakening, is in some ways a test for all of us as individuals and as mankind in general. Now, you can't say that people are being tested who haven't been made aware of it, but if awareness crosses your path enough times so that you actually notice it, because we all know that things can go across your mind and you don't notice them. It takes a while for it to sink in. That's why TV commercials, have to repeat before you remember to go buy a Coke to drink. It's a test because how you react to that is it puts you in the category of someone who can help with this truth or who might hinder this truth. And maybe that sounds bad to say that. That might make people angry to say that. But I really do see it that way. If people react with anger and try to hurt others when they hear about this, they're so mad that they want to really literally destroy people's reputations. You're automatically actually put in a camp of people who aren't here for the betterment of all. You just aren't.
Mm-hmm. Mark, same question.
First off, I think both those answers were outstanding. And excuse me. I would tend to also go with Carly's idea about a much grander plan. I kind of see it as an inevitability, which there were civilizations before us and there'll be civilizations after us, and all the evidence that we see on the ground now was that this system was designed with a beginning and an end. And it was also a test, and when we were only supposed to be here so long. I mean, look at the sunken cities off of Japan, the sunken cities off of India, the Bosnian pyramids, go on and on and on.
Okay.
That this system is a giant school, for lack of a better word. You know, if this world can only be one of three things, or a combination of three things, either education, entertainment, or confinement. If it can't be pure entertainment, otherwise more people would be having a great time. And it seems that human beings do, not to steal a movie line, do seem to define their reality through misery and suffering. If it was just confinement, well, it's a pretty spectacular jail, if that's the case. You know, I haven't seen a jail made like this with all the diverse, wonderful things that were created. It's always felt to me since the beginning is kind of like a school, kind of like an education system where when you go to school, yeah, it's fun sometimes and you're somewhat confined, but you're there to learn something most of the time. Right. And at the end, what will we learn? You know, was this a test for us? Was this, like Harley was saying, was the globe put into this system as a test for us? Because, you know, could we come back from it? It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're insignificant. Now we're going to make you relevant again. And when that happens, and if it happens, God, I hope it does, it will be the beginning of something profound, at least to us, and something that we'll remember, you know, to our dying days.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
a test in the way that another way of testing is, can we figure it out?
Right.
It's like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
What is this group of humans going to do?
No, that's a good one. You got 5,000 years. Can you figure out where you are in 5,000 years? There's a lot that has to go on.
Or are we worthy of figuring it out, especially when we, you know, fight amongst each other?
And that's part of the slowdown process. Yeah, you're right. If we were all this harmonious, unified group, like the Tower of Babel group, for example, could solve this thing in 2 seconds. But the fact that we squabble, kind of like, it was something I thought about today, and that is, what if God took the answer and carved it up into puzzle pieces and scattered it amongst the countries? The countries would have to work together to solve it, but when they fight and when they go to war, it slows down the process. It slows it down to a complete crawl. And sometimes, you know, some countries still have blood feuds that never end. And now we're finally get to the end here. It's close. We're right on the cusp of this thing. The question is, will the powers that be try to turn it in a direction, or do they know it's inevitable as well? Not sure.
I think another reason why all of this is coming out at this time is to show us the flip side of it, and that the matrix, the powers, the eye at the top of the Illuminati pyramid, that there is an organized evil that is trying to foment and force upon us this system, this matrix of belief, this deception that keeps everybody locked into just distraction and delusion and being lost, as far as the grander reasons of why we are here, what all this is about.
Sure.
And so, Satan has kept most people locked into just trying to survive, and nobody has really even time to prioritize the kingdom, but this is bringing it to the forefront and forcing us all to reconsider everything that we thought we knew.
Yeah.
Kathy,
No. Sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead, Kathy, and then we'll go back to Mark.
Well, I think it's really interesting that this year is the 500th anniversary of the Reformation and Martin Luther. And I have this one quote I'd like to read. The author said, I've been bringing some books back, King's Throne, Earth Stands Fast, 50 Reasons. They wrote in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they were not clouded by the mind control from NASA and from the movies, the propaganda that we're under. And Luther said, they should know that one word of God is all, and all are one. If the Bible is false in one, it is false in all. This is a just and logical saying. If the Bible errs in astronomy, geology, physics, chronology, etc., then you can also, in theological questions, believe in it only so far as you have, from other sources, convinced yourself of the correctness of its statements. If the Copernican system is correct, then Genesis is a myth. Is Scripture, which has enlightened the world for thousands of years, now to be eclipsed by a science which has erred so often and is altogether fallacious in so many things? Much indeed is at stake. Satan is bold. A false principle of an immense import is practiced. Namely, they falsify Scripture by totally ignoring words that do not suit them, or by discarding the right and obvious meaning and sense, and by inserting a different meaning.
Yeah, with regard to the cosmology, I think God is forcing us, he's drawing a line in the sand and forcing us to look at it either through science and NASA and believing in all the lies that are perpetuated and put forth by them, or in the inerrancy of Scripture. And so this is the line that a lot of people are being forced to reconsider and to reassess. I'm going to go to each of you and give you a chance for comment, and we have probably enough time for 2 comments from both of you. So as far as why do you think this is important, and what do you hope to see come out of the conference? Mark, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Patricia and Carly.
All right. Why do I think the flat Earth is important?
Yeah,
Just in general. Oh,
yeah,
well,
the line in the sand. This whole question of NASA or God or
yeah.
that.
It's important. Well, at least it's important to me because it answers a massive question, which all of us entertain since we're children, which is, are we alone? Mm-hmm. And look, it's this question that nobody can answer because science will tell us you can't be answered. Oh yeah, they'll tease you every once in a while, say, well, there's probably life on other planets we define anyway. Planets that we tell you where's life and what it's supposed to be, but they never actually, even though, but at the same time they hide any life that rears its head from time to time. I have no doubt that there are remnants of older civilizations flying around with high-tech engines, and the powers that be aren't gonna release that. But yeah, it answers that question, and the real basic one. If people are hearing this for the first time, the real basic premise of this is, if it is flat, regardless whether it's a dome or not, if it was flat, then it was created. If it was created, there's a creator, and if there's a creator, you were never alone. Not you always had someone with you, and that should be very comforting. Now, I'm not gonna define that after that, but that should be very comforting to a lot of people. And that's what it meant to me, and that's why I was brought back into spirituality, was because of this. I mean, and a lot, email after email after email that I get from people saying the same thing, which is, I fell away from God, and now I can't. It's not like they were pulled in, kicking and screaming. It's like all of a sudden it dawned on them, and they walked back on their own power to it.
Right,
I mean, it's like,
right.
You can't, because really, you try to be an atheist. I'm not going to babble anymore. You try to be an atheist and be a flat earther. It is tough. It is extremely difficult.
Yeah, and then the other side of that, with regard to the ancient civilizations and cultures, is who were these dragon-like entities, or who were these fallen angels, or the archons, as it says in some of the texts,
Right.
the watchers, and what side are they really on?
Yeah.
So that's another whole thing.
It's a tough call because, again, not real quick, and that is, yeah, I know what you're talking about, and my version of it is, okay, if we are version 7, let's say, just pick a number, go back, who was version 1, and was version 1 trapped in here? And you don't forget, as far as their intentions, all the great stories have great villains. So I would kind of lean that they have nefarious purposes, but you never know.
Right.
You never know.
Yeah, I agree. Patricia?
Well, it was interesting because I know the initial question, but it's taking me somewhere totally different than answering the initial question, which is, if there was version 1 and we're version, let's just say, for example, 7, and each version has to be swept from the earth and a new one to start. Well, that's kind of scary, because we're reaching a point in awareness where it would be the time that we would, or in the past in the Bible, would it be because of wickedness? Well, we also are kind of wicked. And is our awareness allowing us to stay here longer? Are we actually, through this exploration, keeping ourselves alive? Or no matter what we do, even if we bring this to mainstream and everyone discovers there's a creator, still version 8's coming in regardless. And what does the Bible say? That no more water, next time fire? I mean, that's what somebody told me. I don't know if that's true. But
That's true, right.
so, I mean, we're doing all this, and, in the end, it's into the frying pan, or, the fire. So, I quit.
It's the crucible, but a lot of times that's what refines the gold and brings out the purity of and as far as refining all of us, that we are forced through this challenge. Carly?
As far as why I think flat Earth is important, I'm kind of going to go from a perspective of why it's important to me, for my experience, because it's very hard to say why it's important to everyone else. I mean, there's so many options. But for me, and maybe similar to everyone else here on the panel, is it has brought me closer to a creator. It's refreshed my spirituality. It's given me a whole new education and an enthusiasm for nature, and to the point where it brings me to tears to be outside and looking at everything so differently, and it making sense. I feel like I went a very long time definitely questioning the heliocentric model and never really feeling like that made sense. I mean, how terrible is that, to live your entire life and feel like your home doesn't make sense? It doesn't feel right. I also, and I talk about this very often, that to me, it's not as much about the shape of the earth. I mean, I could care less the sizes of the continents and where they are placed on a map, although I think that's romantic and it's exciting and I love learning about those things. But to me, it's so much more important is that the majority of us that are truly in this for genuine reasons are realizing that because this earth has been created with a purpose and that it is intelligently designed, that how much more important we are to each other, and how much potential we have as humanity. And to me, it's becoming more and more of a struggle daily, talking to people about, you're completely losing the point. I consider them flat earthers in name only, because you're really not graduating to the point of realizing why we are learning about this. It really has nothing to do with proving the shape of the earth,
Right.
We have to learn how to be social again and respectful and love each other, like truly love each other. And I think we've so far lost all that. And to me, that's what's important. That's my goal. That's my mission. That's what I've been prepared to do.
I think another thing, and then we'll go back to each of you for final comment, is that if they have lied to us about this and we have accepted without question, without ever second guessing, that what they told us was true with regard to the cosmology, what else are they lying to us about? And so, it forces us to reconsider everything, and we can't believe anything that they've told us, and we have to really reconsider truth in all facets, and so that's both exciting and scary. Mark, we're going to go to you and then back around again, and we'll finish up with final commentary. We've got 4 minutes.
What am I doing?
Just final comment.
Final comments. If you haven't looked into Flat Earth yet, you know what? No, everyone that's listening to this probably has looked into Flat Earth. Let's not kid ourselves. I'd like to address something really quick, which is there's a lot of, because we've been doing this now for a couple of years, there's a lot of new models and people trying to explore the maps and trying to, what Carly was saying, trying to define the shape and everything. And there's been a model recently that's been pushed. The 4-dimensional model is what I call it, the 4D model. Just so I can say this on the record, I've never hated that model, and I'm not going to hate it. The problem is that I still, remember, I'm the Flat Earth tour guide. I deal with new people. I'm the freshman orientation guy. They come to me, and I have to show them a model, and I got to show them something that I can physically hold in my hand. So what I try to push to people is the UN flag, the azimuthal map, dome or no dome, really doesn't make a difference. And the only reason I'm pushing that is because I don't have anything better that's simpler. Remember, to win this war, you still have to get to the lowest common denominator. And that's the bulk of the population. We're talking knuckle draggers, mouth breathers. And I'm sure all your listeners are fine, educated, upstanding people. but there's a lot of dumb people out there, and that's why I do that. So I'm going to keep pushing what I'm pushing. I know people get tired of me doing the interviews and saying the same things over and over. That's my thing. Sorry, that's my last comment.
Yeah, you're educating, and that's what we're all here to do. Patricia, give you a chance for final comment too. We've got a minute and 30.
Well, I have to say that no matter what you're doing, if you're doing it to help others, then you're doing a great thing. If you're looking at the square map, 3D map, or no matter whatever map you're looking at, that's great. No matter what you're doing experiments, or you're having conversations with other people, or you're playing more of a supportive role. You're doing sort of the Flat Earth Tour Guide 101, Flat Earth for Dummies, like Mark does. Sorry to use the word dummies and you, Mark, in the same sentence. I know. Or if you're doing something very intellectual on a high level, if you're doing it for this cause, and also you're including the creator, the fact that we are not a function of a big bang, we're not nothing, we're something, and we're important, then I think you're doing something great. And I encourage people to just do that. I don't mean positive and a Pollyanna, and I mean, because there's some dark things we deal with here. There's some spiritual warfare really going on. Right. But to do good for other people when you can, that's what this is all about.
Yeah, amen. And we're going to have to leave it with that. I apologize. We've run out of time, but I want to thank each of you for your willingness to come on with us. And I know Kathy looks forward to meeting all of you at the conference. Be blessed all. Good night. Shalom.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Good night.
Be
Thank
blessed.
you.
Good night, all.
Good night, John Boy.